According to Professor Syed Attas, history is not just a mere gathering of facts arranged chronologically. We have, for example, the Arabic word tarikh to represent that, meaning to say history as chronological events. We have also in the Arabic language a word which is siyar, meaning to say the biography of a man's life, usually referred to great individuals such as the Prophet himself. In the Malay language, however, borrowing from the Arabic, the word that they have chosen to reflect this activity of history was shajarah. This term sejarah comes from the Arabic root shajarah, which means tree. This is because important events in history or the present have their roots in history. What we find as fruits today has their origin in either the distant past or the very relatively recent past. According to Voltaire, he said that facts without an overarching framework are to the historian what dead weight is to the soldiers. They are as impedimenta, meaning to say they merely slow down the soldier on his mission. So too are independent facts in history which do not form part of a coherent framework. We know that our minds are not like what John Locke perceived to be a tabula rasa, a plain sheet of paper in which facts can just impose their indomitable will upon it. But rather, we believe, at least within the Islamic perspective, and according to, of course, some philosophers such as Immanuel Kant, that the mind is an actively participating, meaningful being, meaning to say that makes sense of facts within a framework. We give an example that our minds, supposing we were to experience a phenomena in which we experience the tail of something first before its origins. Supposing we come into the house and then we smell, say, something burning. In our minds, we do not say that something is burning is the cause of something, but we infer that to be the effect of something. That means to say, even unconsciously, our mind would rearrange the facts as we experience it within a meaningful framework. So similarly, in history, if we have just blocks of facts, it is human nature to want to arrange them within a coherent framework. And without this framework, they become, as what Voltaire said, impedimenta. So, for example, when it comes to histories of nations, if we have too many hands writing that history, and these hands are people of various interests trying to compete in order to shape the outlook of a people, what may end up happening to the generality of people when they don't have this coherent framework is that they consider these facts to be impedimenta. For example, you imagine going to school in which history, rather than an exercise of understanding a coherent, meaningful framework to guide one's life in the future, you end up having an exercise of memorization in which you cannot place this within a coherent context. What will then happen is that as soon as the student finishes, shall we say, school, she will not hesitate to try to forget whatever it is that she has tried to store in her mind. Take, for example, the average Malaysian. When asked about, can you name a significant event in history or a significant year in history? Chances are, and I have tried asking this to several crowds, the year that they will remember is probably 1511. And that is the year that the Portuguese managed to capture Malacca. That's very interesting for an entire people or large groups of parts of this nation to remember 1511 as a significant date in history, rather than perhaps when their ancestors established Muslim kingdom, or when they managed to have scientific achievements and triumphs, when, for example, was the earliest dated manuscript, and so on. So before we can continue in our journey so as to make history meaningful, we first must understand the significance of this framework. For history, shajarah, despite having Arabic origins, is not how the Arabs themselves would dominantly describe history. The Arabs have several names for history, namely tarikh, which is a record of chronological events, and siyar, which is focused primarily on biographies. The Malay word for history is ash-shajarah, which is a tree, signifying that first, that important events that happens in the present have their roots in the distant past or in the closer, more proximate past as we experience. Secondly, and more importantly, it reflects also their understanding about great people in history. That great people in history belong to a genealogy. And this genealogy may refer to biological origins of parents and households of great people, or it also reflects how genealogically, in terms of your tradition of learning, meaning to say, so and so was a student of this great teacher. And this remarkable stability in history, understood as a tree or shajara, is to suggest to us that in order for civilization to grow, in order for there to be scientific culture, in order for there to be learning, in order for there to be refinement in one's way of acting and behaving and understanding the world, you need long periods of stability. And this, I suppose, is why the Malays have chosen sejarah to understand their history.